Is it upside down?
Front camera is on. Front camera is on.
Yeah, the front camera is on. Is it on? Yeah. Okay. So I just asked you how many of you were vegetarians and how many of you were non-vegetarians, right? So you were born in either non-vegetarian or vegetarian families. Is there anybody who chose to be something else? Like you were vegetarian, you've become non-vegetarian now, or you were born non-vegetarian and you've decided to be vegetarian. Anybody who has chosen themselves? No one. So if you think about it, what we eat is not a personal choice at all. We are just inducted into eating things that families eat, right? Now let me talk about cows first and dairy, yeah? Tell me, when does any animal produce milk? Any animal. Cat, dog, horse, donkey, human being, cow, buffalo, elephant, giraffe, zebra. When does any animal produce milk? After giving birth to a baby, right? Why has nature put that milk in the body of that animal mother? Right, so it is meant to nourish a newborn baby to grow very fast in a very short period of time, right? Now when we take milk from a cow or a buffalo, what are we doing? Exactly, we're stealing the food of a baby, right? Now would you as an individual, steal the food of a baby? No. See, you are such lovely, compassionate and wonderfully kind people. And you think it is wrong to steal the food of a baby, I hope? Yes? You think it's wrong? Right. So it's wrong to steal the food of a baby, and as an individual, you would never do such a terrible thing, right? And yet we do this. Why? Why do we do this? Have you even wondered what milk is and that you're stealing the food of a baby? Have you even thought about it that way? No. So, why do we do this then? Any question, any answer for that? So I'll tell you, it's not because of taste. It's because everybody is doing it. Yeah? It's a dominant ideology. Consuming milk and milk products is a dominant ideology. It is a thought that everybody all over the world does. And it has been happening for centuries. It's not something new. Right? And because it is a dominant ideology and everybody is doing it, we never question it. We don't ever think of questioning it. Right? Okay. Now tell me, how often does any baby need to drink milk? The baby of any animal, even a human baby. How often does a baby need to drink milk? Every 2 hours, every 3 hours, right? And if you look at it, even cats, dogs, any animal, the baby needs to drink milk again and again, right? Now, how often do we milk a cow? How often do we milk cows? What are we forcing her to do? We are forcing her to...
No. Yeah.
Yeah? Just see if this goes on. So basically, we are forcing her to accumulate milk for 12 hours. Yeah? When actually in nature, her udder would be emptied by her baby every 2 or 3 hours. Can you imagine how painful it must be for her? Really painful, isn't it?
Yes.
And we never question it. Why? Because that is what we've been told is normal. Right? Now if you go to any dairy, what will you see? You will see the baby tied away from the mother. And then they say, oh, we give the baby to drink first and then we take the milk out. Have you heard this?
Yes.
They will always say that. We take the milk out first, we give the baby to drink first and then we give you the milk. If that is the case, then why are you even tying the baby? You shouldn't be tying the baby at all. The baby should be with the mother 24/7 and have as much milk as she wants or he wants, and as often as she or he wants, right? And if that happens, do you think there will be any milk left for our cup of tea and coffee? Or for our ice cream and butter and paneer and cheese and ghee and khoya and all that? No. So what we do is something so not who we are. We are compassionate, we are kind, we would never do something so terrible. And yet we do this not because we are cruel, but because we are a part of a system. And society has conditioned us into accepting this violence as something very normal, necessary and natural. Right? So it is something we don't even think about. Now, if it is a male calf, do you think the dairy industry is going to keep the male calf? No. Why? Because the male calf is not going to produce milk. Who is going to unnecessarily feed the male calf, right? So what do you think they do to the male calf?
Sell it off.
Sell it to whom? Slaughter. So they're actually killing babies. Many times they don't sell them to slaughter, they starve them to death. They don't give them the mother's milk, they don't give them food. So the baby dies of starvation, and then they stuff the body. It's called a khal bachcha. And when it is time to milk the cow or the buffalo, they keep it near the mother, so she starts releasing milk. Is this something normal? Is this something natural? Is this something necessary? And yet we do this, and we are told it's normal, natural and necessary. Right? Now tell me, which animal drinks milk when it is grown up? As an adult, which animal drinks milk?
Humans.
Humans. And which animal drinks the milk of another species? Humans. Now why don't all the other animals drink milk then? Because nature intended us not to drink milk. As adults, we don't need milk. Why? What is milk? What is milk? We just answered the question the first thing that I asked you. When does any animal produce milk? When she has a baby. Right? So what is milk? Baby food. Are we babies? Do we need milk? No. And do we need milk of another species? Definitely not. Right? Now, nature is wonderful. Yeah? Nature knows everything. So, nature produces milk meant for that species in the body of that particular species. So, elephant's milk will contain nutrition for an elephant's baby, and a rat's milk will contain nutrition for a rat's baby. Right? Human milk will contain nutrition for a human baby. Cow's milk will buffalo milk for the buffalo baby. Have you heard of A1? Yeah. So each animal's milk contains nutrition for the baby of that specific animal. Right? So cow's milk contains nutrition for cow's babies. A1 milk will contain nutrition for A1 cow's babies. A2 cow's milk will contain nutrition for A2 cow's babies. Not for humans. Right? Nature is wonderful in another way. When any mammal starts teething, nature says, oh, now you can chew and you can eat plants, you can eat other foods. You don't need milk anymore. You don't need liquid nutrition. And what happens? Your body stops producing lactase. Now that is the enzyme required to digest milk. Lactase is the enzyme required to digest milk. Now, if your body gradually stops producing lactase and your body is incapable of digesting human milk, do you think we'll be able to digest cow's milk or horse milk or cat milk or donkey's milk or elephant's milk? Impossible. Right? Now, what is the weight of a human baby when it is born?
2.5 to
2.5 to 3 kgs? Right. What's the weight of a baby cow or a baby buffalo? Anywhere from 18 to 25 kgs? Now, in a year where the baby drinks majorly mother's milk, what does the weight of the human baby come up to? at the end of the year? 7, 8 kgs? Because that is what human milk is supposed to do. It gives you just the right nutrition to go from 3 kgs to 7 to 8 kgs, right? And what is the weight of a baby cow or a baby buffalo after a year? 130 to 140 kgs. So imagine 3 kgs to 8 kgs, 25 or 20 to 25 kgs to 125 to 135, 40 kgs. Do you think the milk of a cow or a buffalo is designed for a human body at all? I hope what I'm saying makes sense to you.
Yes.
Thank you for that, yeah. So basically, we are doing something that is so unnatural, so unnecessary, and so abnormal, isn't it? Just the opposite of what we are told. What are we told? Oh, you need calcium for bones, strong bones, right? We told you need protein. Where will you get your protein? You need milk for that. Tell me, which animal, grown-up animal, gets protein from milk? Gets calcium from milk? Which animal? No animal gets protein or calcium or iron or anything from milk. Why is it only we would need it then? Isn't it strange? So we don't need milk at all. Now milk in itself is acidic in nature. And when we consume milk, what happens? The body, because it is supposed to be alkaline, gets into motion immediately to neutralize this acidity. And it leaches calcium from the bones to neutralize this acidity. And what happens? We end up with arthritis, osteoporosis, knee pain. Yeah. It is also inflammatory in nature. It is mucus forming. So when you stop consuming milk and milk products, all your ailments go away. Your arthritis disappears, your osteoporosis disappears, your knee pain disappears, all these things disappear. Now when you drink milk, have you noticed you feel uncomfortable in your stomach? Have you ever noticed it? No? Have you heard about lactose intolerance? What is that? It is another way your body is telling you that what you're consuming is not meant for you. Normal. If you don't have lactose intolerance, you should be worried because something has gone wrong in your body is telling you this is not for you, right? Lactose intolerance is something very normal. Your body should be lactose intolerant because your body does not make lactase. If it is not lactose intolerant, then it's something to worry about. Now, milk also contains saturated fat. Even if you skim it, yeah, and you remove the fat that comes on top, each cell of the milk contains saturated fat and cholesterol. You consume it, you end up with diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, arthritis, and all the others I told you, PCOD, and even cancer. Now, milk contains IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. And what is milk? Growth fluid. The growth of any baby is so fast, isn't it? So it helps the growth of your cells, the cells in your body. So whatever triggers the cancer cell in your body, you have milk, you're saying, oh, grow, 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 grow. And does anybody tell you that, oh, if anybody has cancer, they should not even touch a drop of milk? No, but they should be telling you that, right? So this is information that most people do not have. And this is why people like me are coming out and reaching out to people. I hope it had made sense to you. Now the next time you want to have milk, it's going to be very difficult to stop. Do you know why? Because milk is addictive. And why is milk addictive? Because it has something called casomorphins, which give you a sense of well-being and happiness. Now nature has put casomorphine in that milk so that a baby will want to keep drinking milk. So that the baby gets addicted to it and keeps drinking it and grows fast. But when we grow up and we continue to having milk, when we continue having milk, what happens? We get addicted. So it's not very easy to give up milk and milk products. But you can ask yourself, yeah? You can ask yourself, what kind of person am I? Do I want to starve that baby, that male calf, and enjoy an ice cream or have a pizza with cheese? Or should I be listening to my heart and my conscience and say, okay, I want to spread compassion and peace and kindness and justice for all. Right? So this is about milk. Now, do you think the dairy industry is going to continue keeping cows that will stop producing a profitable amount of milk? No. First of all, how is it that a cow keeps producing milk? Is it natural?
No.
Human mothers, they all stop producing milk after a year or two. Again, they will have milk when?
Next
When they have another baby. So how is it that we have cows and buffaloes producing milk all the time? Do you know? We make them have babies. And how do we do this? I'll show you. So it's not something that we would normally do. So this is how babies are produced. Now this is a 5-minute video. I don't think I want to show all of it to you. I can't hear the... Is this on? One of you go and ask where the volume is. Does anybody know how to? Can you just go and ask? So it's turned on. So this is the semen, and he's explaining how it's done. He's getting all the equipment ready. Now, yeah, but where is it? Where is the volume switch? Because when I tried it, it was on. They tie the cow or the buffalo. He inserts his arm into her rectum. You have 3 or 4 men holding her down. Do you think she is okay with this? Do you think she has given her consent for this? No. And this is available on YouTube. You can check out artificial insemination. This is how it is done. So this is an extremely painful thing. I will just fast forward it. Now, he was not successful the first time. They do it 2-3 times. Can you hear her cry? Yeah, this is horrible, isn't it? If you can't bear to see it, don't watch it. It's okay if you don't see it. I don't watch it either. Soy months. And I think that's enough for you. Yeah, let's start this. And this, sadly, is taught in veterinary schools. It is taught in veterinary schools. Yeah? Now, do you think this is natural? Do you think this is necessary? And do you think this is normal? And yet we do this. Do they ever show this image on the packet of milk? What will they show? Happy cow. And what do they teach us in schools? Cows give us milk. Do they give us milk? They produce milk for their babies, not for us. Right? Now, do you know when they do this to cows and buffaloes? Just 3 months after she has delivered a baby. Just 3 months after she's delivered a baby. Why? So that her milk production will continue non-stop. She carries a baby for 9 months and 9 days, delivers, they steal the baby away, keep the baby away, and we drink our tea, coffee, milk, ice cream, milkshakes, pizzas, mithai, lassi, dahi, shrikhand, all these things, ghee, butter, whatever. And 3 months after that, she's become pregnant again. And she is lactating and pregnant at the same time. So because she's pregnant and lactating at the same time, it's okay. I cried too. And it's perfectly normal because this is not who we are. Right? Yeah. So, would you like to leave the room? No? You're okay? I didn't mean to disturb you, but it is disturbing, isn't it? So, I'm sorry. So because she's pregnant and lactating at the same time, there are hormonal changes happening in her body. Yeah? And those hormones come into the milk, and we give the milk to our children. Do you know why our children are reaching puberty at such a young age now? This is the reason. So by the time children are 8 or 9 or 10, they have reached puberty, which is very abnormal. This is not what we should be doing, right? So there are a lot of things in the end product in a fancy package. In our bodies, we are heading towards disease like diabetes and PCOD and so many things, right? So this happens to a cow or a buffalo repeatedly every year, and after 5 or 6 years, do you think she will produce a profitable amount of milk? What do you think happens to her? What do you think they do to her? Any answers? Sorry? Sell her to? Sell her where? Slaughterhouses. They kill her, they make her beef, and they export the beef. Now, in India, do we have any farmers who raise cows or buffaloes specifically for beef? Do we have anybody raising cows or buffaloes for beef? No, but yet we are the largest exporter of beef. Where does this beef come from? Dairy cows, dairy buffaloes. And if you see how they are transported, it is horrible. So there's a video called Horrors in India's Dairy Industry by PETA. It's a 5-year investigation done more than 20 years ago. There's a new video called Deadly Dairy by Animal Equality, which is a recent video, a recent investigation, showing how these cattle are transported, how they are, taken to the cattle market and how they are sold, right? So we objectify these animals and we buy and sell them. Now, when the black slavery existed in the US, right? What did they do? They bought and sold slaves. Was it considered illegal? No, it was legal at that time. It was not illegal. They did this for 400 years. They actually captured the black slaves from Africa, transported them on ships in horrible conditions, and then they brought them to the US and sold them. Yeah? Imagine selling a human being. Even now, today, there are people who sell children. Child trafficking. Yeah? Even women are being sold. Is this normal? Is this okay? Is this acceptable? So do you think any animal should also be sold and bought? Do you think we should buy and sell animals? Their lives too. Individual lives. And we never look at them as individuals. What do we look at them as? Objects. We never consider them as a person with feelings, with emotions, with social structures, right? So this is a mentality that has existed since ages, for ages. Since I don't know when. That mentality. So whether you oppress a human being or you oppress an animal, whether it was for sati, whether it was for slavery, whether it was for child marriage, whether it is domestic violence, whether it is animal exploitation, the mentality is the same. It is a mentality of domination and subjugation. Yes, a mentality of privilege and oppression. So the mentality is the same. And that is how we even have wars. I will, be the dominant one. I will kill you because this is mine. We give so much importance to property. And all these things are linked. Now what you saw in the video, 3-4 men standing around holding that buffalo and one person inserting things into her anal cavity and her vagina. Doesn't this remind you of something that happened to a young girl a few years ago? Nirbhaya? They did exactly the same thing. And where do you think they got that idea from? Yes. Why would anybody ever think of doing such a thing, horrible thing? Yeah, do this to a woman as well. So what we do all over the world, and it's happened for centuries. Now, I'm sure a lot of you eat chicken. Yeah? So, would you as an individual be able to kill a chicken? Would you be able to take the life of a chicken yourself? All those who are non-vegetarian, raise your hands. It's okay, I was born non-vegetarian too. So it's nothing wrong because we are born into this system. It's not your fault. Yeah? So, all of you who eat chicken, raise your hands. Yeah. How many of you would be able to take the life of a chicken yourself? Or has anybody done it till now? No. Not a single one. See? What does that tell me? That you are such lovely, compassionate and kind and wonderful people. You would not hurt an animal, right? And yet you participate in the violence. By telling somebody, okay, I'm giving you money, you kill that and give it to me. I remember when I was a non-vegetarian, I used to go to the chicken wala and say, "Kaate rakho, mere samne mat kato. Cut it and keep it, don't cut it in front of me, I'll come and take it." I didn't want to see it. We're in denial, And yet I used to buy it and relish it. And I used to feel, oh, so proud of my chicken biryani. So we just follow everything that is happening in society blindly, without us realizing what we are actually doing. And I used to call myself an animal lover. Yeah, the first time somebody said, "Oh, you love dogs and you're eating chicken," I said, "Of course, I can't stop eating chicken. Everybody eats chicken. What are you saying?" I found him like, is he mad or what? Right? Because everybody is doing it. And it is considered something very normal and natural. So we don't even question it. Again, it's a dominant ideology. Now, how old is the chicken when you eat it? Do you know? It's about 40 to 45 days old. Only 40 to 45 days old. Now, if you compare it to human age, what age do you think that would be? 1.5 years. Approximately a year and a half, because chickens live up to say 12 to 15 years max, and if they are allowed to live. Yeah, we just kill them off, so we don't even know how old they can be in nature. And imagine killing a 1.5-year-old child. Doing something to a 1.5-year-old child who can't even defend himself or herself. Right? Now, how is it that they are so big in that case? Chickens, if you see, they're very big. A 40-45-day-old chicken should be only so small. But here they are so big. Do you know why? So they are fed food that has hormones that make them hungry all the time, and they want to eat all the time, and they are made to grow very fast in a very short period of time. If you see the chickens anywhere, yeah, are they running around? No. What are they doing? They're just sitting down. Do you know why? Because the weight of their body is so much that their legs cannot take it. They cannot stand and run around and play. It's horrible. Their heart and their lungs cannot keep up with the body weight that they are forced to, grow so fast. If you compare it to human age, it would be like a 1.5-year-old child weighing 30 or 40 kgs. Imagine a 1.5-year-old child being able to stand on their feet. Not possible. So basically what we are doing, is this natural? Is it normal? Is it necessary? Would you intentionally hurt an animal? No. And yet you are intentionally hurting an animal. So you are not living your values. Why? Because society conditions us into accepting this violence as something very normal. Yeah? We don't think twice about it. It is conditioning. Now, if somebody had okay, this milk is meant for this baby calf, but we are going to steal that baby, the milk from the baby. We are not going to give the milk to the baby calf, and we are going to give it to you to drink. Would you have said okay? I hope not. So we are never given a choice. It's never a personal choice. Because I know if as a child we were given the choice, 95% people would say, no, we do not want to participate in this violent system. We don't want to be part of this violent system. So basically, it's never been a personal choice. We are just inducted into the system even before we know what is happening. It could be for any reason. Any reason. It doesn't matter. But we are born into a system that doesn't allow us to even think of whether we are doing what we are doing is right or wrong. Yeah? Very often we are told, oh, that is how it is, you need this, it is necessary. But is it really necessary? So something to think about. I hope I've helped you really start questioning what we are doing. Yeah? Now, where do you think all these baby chickens come from? So many chickens. Where do you think they come from? Where are these eggs? Where do the eggs come from? You think it is normal? The poultry industry, yes. Now, in nature, how many eggs would any chicken lay? 12 to 15 in a year. Right? Then how is it that we have so many chickens? Sexual assault. Just what we do to cows and buffaloes. Assault them sexually, give them hormones so that they keep producing eggs. Even eggs, yeah? An egg, what is it to a baby, to a hen? An egg, what is it to a hen? A baby? And she talks to the baby inside the egg even before the chicken is born. They communicate with them. Are we told this? Are we given this information in schools and colleges? No. And when you take the egg away, what do you think the mother feels? You think it's something nice? She's traumatized. And in these egg farms, hens are forced to lay eggs almost every day. So instead of laying 12 to 15 eggs a year, they lay about 250 to 300 eggs a year. And it is an egg, right? If you compare it kind of to human physiology, it would be like having a period. A period is an egg which has been released when thrown out of the body. Imagine having a period almost every single day. Is that something you would wish on anybody else? That is what we do to hens when we take their eggs. Again, how long do you think these hens will be capable of laying eggs like this throughout, continuously? Not more than a year and a half. Where actually, a hen has a reproductive cycle for at least 8 years. What do you think they do to her after a year and a half? They end up in our biryanis and our chicken curries and things like that. They kill them. Not useful to them, right? Now this is what we are doing to animals. Let us understand what we are doing to the planet. Something that we have never even, we won't even connect, yeah? So I have a video, I'll show parts of it. You watch it. Dr. Sailesh Rao was one of the engineers who invented the internet. He was on the team that made the internet. And he has done a lot of research. So let us watch his video. I'll show it to you from parts, not all of it. You can watch the video later. So this is the environment.
There was something wrong. I like to use the analogy of a patient. I don't want to have a fever. But that's exactly how our world leaders have been dealing with climate change for the last 30, 40 years. In 1992, after the Rio summit, there were 3 conventions formed at the UN. There were 3 major problems identified. The first was biodiversity loss. The second was ecosystems collapse. And the third was climate change. So they formed 3 conventions: Convention on Biological Diversity, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. How often do we ever hear about the first 2? But we keep track of the fever, climate change. And we argue about whether to give the patient Tylenol or no Tylenol. But we are all complicit in this. Because one of the things that I found out in COP22 and COP21 in Paris, one of the negotiators came out and spoke to me because I was wearing a t-shirt that caught her attention. And she said, "Nobody wants to talk about what you have on your t-shirt." She said, I'm one of the few women among the negotiators, and everybody in there eats meat. And the negotiators were told right from the outset not to mention the C word, consumption. So you wonder, why do we have this silence about something in our society? And anytime you have silence about something, you can be pretty sure that that's where the major problem is. You'll notice that the title of my talk is a little different from what was advertised, because I'm part of a group called Inspiring the Great Transition. And we are all determined, we are people from all over the world, and we've determined from now on we are going to keep talking about the Great Transition. There's a book by Jeremy Lent that came out recently, a philosopher, and he said that there are 3 possible futures for humanity at the moment. The first future is a complete civilizational collapse. And nobody works for a future like that. The second is what he calls a techno-split, where a few people have access to lots and lots of technology and all the resources of the planet, and the rest are next to nothing. It's an extreme inequality situation. And that is what our current system is headed towards. And the third is the great transition, the great transformation of values. See, that UN identified 3 major environmental problems. And Gus Speth, who's the Dean of Environmental Studies at Yale University, he said recently that 30 years ago I thought that the 3 major environmental problems on Earth were ecosystems collapse, biodiversity loss, and climate change. And I thought with 30 years of good science, we can solve these problems. I was wrong. The 3 major environmental problems on Earth are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to solve these problems, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do this. It's up to us. I really think the faith community has to come together now to do this.
Vaswani mission is all about spirituality, compassion, kindness.
I was in a school in Marrakesh where I asked 250 high school students, how many of you are vegan? And one child raised his hand. And I could tell that he had to raise his hand because everybody was looking at him. Then I asked them, so how many of you would deliberately hurt an innocent animal unnecessarily? Nobody raised their hands. Then I told them, by definition, all of you are vegan. Because you have compassion in your heart. That's who you are. You are made in the image of God. Except who you are and what you do are not in alignment. And every time that happens, you are suffering. Because that's what suffering originates from, not being in alignment with who we are. So I frame veganism as a journey home to who we really are. Becoming compassionate to all life. And we are all in different places in this journey. And because we are all unique, your place is your place. So you have to find your way home. The best we can do is to help each other as we come home to who we really are. So that's my mission. That's what I've been trying to do.
So basically, we really need to align our values with our actions and help others also align their values with their actions. Because I'm sure you had no idea about what I spoke about today. It was only when I opened out the issue to you that you understood what it was all about, right? So I think I'm hopeful that you will go out and spread the word and let other people also know that this is what is happening, and do you think we should be part of this, right? Okay. Now the next part is
Okay, thanks. There is a lot of social and cultural and health issues surrounding cooking. People have been doing this for 40 years, since 1970. The women who cook with wood live 8 years less than the men on average. It's the opposite of what you'd expect, because they're breathing in all that smoke. So that is the equivalent of breathing 2 packs of cigarettes a day in terms of lifespan. So we analyzed the smoke to see what was in there, and we discovered that the smoke was filled with industrial toxins from all our effluents. It had dioxin, it had furan, benzopyrene, you name it, it is there. Everything that we put up in the air comes down in the rain somewhere, and it's absorbed by trees. And trees are very good filters. This is nature's way of cleaning up our toxins. So the trees filter the toxins out, store them in their trunks and their branches, so that the water that's transpired from the leaf is as pure as possible. But these women are cutting those trees and burning them. And every year the concentration is increasing, so it's getting worse and worse and worse. So then it occurred to me, it's in the trees, it should be in the vegetation as well. You see, the reason there is a lot of deforestation and desertification happening in this region is because vegetation is eaten by livestock or farmed animals. Or we raise goats and then we sell the goats to people in the city to eat. So the biomass from the forest is now, including the nutrients, is disappearing into the city. So over time we are depleting the forest. And when goats finish eating, they leave nothing behind because they even eat the roots. So it becomes a desert. So it was clear that, anything new is eaten by animals or domestic animals, and anything old that is in the forest is being cut down and burnt for firewood. So the forest was being attacked from below and from above, and it was dying. So the people protected 250 acres of this forest. They put this stone fence to prevent animals from going inside, domestic animals from going inside. And in 4 years, it became that. Now, when I used to show these two pictures in my presentations, people would ask me, are you sure they didn't take the first picture during summer and the second picture during winter? Maybe they're fooling you. Maybe this is the way it is. So when I went to the village in 2008, December, I asked them, can you please show me this forest? I want to see it. Okay. So I took this picture of the fence. On the left, animals are allowed to graze, and I could see a lot of old cows walking around eating the grass. And on the right, animals are not allowed to graze, and I immediately went vegan. Because I realized I had been told a story that vegetarianism is just a little bit worse than veganism. So I thought maybe, I'm as good as I could be. I was a vegetarian at that point. But that's an accounting gimmick. Because to get milk out of cows, you have to keep impregnating the cows. And in India, we drink a lot of milk and we don't eat the beef.
Okay. So can you imagine the impact it has on the environment? And there are about 7.2 billion humans on Earth, 74 billion land animals raised for food. What do these land animals eat? Plants. We are growing crops, yes? And who is eating them all? The animals. 1 million human beings are dying of hunger and starvation every year. Now, if we stopped giving these plants to these animals, there wouldn't be a single human being dying of starvation. Not one. There is enough plants, there are enough plants to feed the human population 14 times over. Who do you think is drinking all the water? 74 billion land animals. 10 times more than the human population. And then people don't have water to drink. So even if you value plants and you say, oh, plants have life, you should be working towards reducing the suffering of plants, shouldn't you? And how can you do that? By eating plants directly, not through animals. It's a huge thing, nobody questions it, nobody tells us, and we continue to eat animals, or animal products for that matter. Now I'll come to 39.
Something that we as vegans find out accidentally. I went vegan because I saw what was happening in the forest and I said I cannot live with myself if I continue doing this. So I gave up my dairy habit. Within a week I had this huge sense of guilt lift off my shoulders. I carried all that guilt all my life. And then within a month, all my arthritic, I had the same genetic makeup as my dad, who suffered from arthritis for the last 30 years of his life. But all along, it was a reaction to dairy. So even though I tried to do something for selfless reason, it turned out to be a very selfish act for myself, because I've never been healthier in my life. So.
Now the next part, so like I said, it even impacts our health and we don't even realize how it impacts. Asthma and so many diseases just disappear because you're nourishing your body with what it actually needs. Now this next part is a longer part. It's about biomass and things like that. So I'm just going to play it. If you can understand it, well and good. Otherwise I suggest you watch it 2-3 times to understand what exactly he's trying to explain. Yeah? I'll leave this video, I'll leave the name of the video with you so you can watch the entire video. But this is extremely important.
I believe that. Clearly this is a spiritual and cultural transformation that has to happen. So in 2012, this is at the COP17 in Durban, South Africa, we wrote an interfaith declaration on climate change and almost every faith leader there signed it, including Archbishop Desmond Tutu. You see his signature there. And we presented it to Christiana Figueres, who is the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC. And the lady who's doing the presentation is Ela Gandhi, the granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi. And in that declaration, we had this 2-sentence addendum, which basically says, while climate change is a symptom, the fever that the earth has contracted, the underlying disease is the disconnection from creation that plagues human societies. And we, the undersigned, pledge to heal this disconnection by promoting and exemplifying compassion for all creation in all our actions. And everybody signed it, saying it is part of their faith. Compassion for all creation is the foundation of all faiths. Selflessness is the foundation of all faiths. And then a week later, I got a call from Archbishop Tutu's secretary, saying Desmond is very concerned about what he signed. Did he sign on to go vegan? Because he loves this chicken too much. When what we say and what we do are not in alignment, we suffer. Not only do we suffer, we cause suffering to others. So then I had to look at the way climate change is being framed today to see if we can tell a story where we did belong exactly as we are all along as human beings. The way the story of climate change is told is that CO2 levels have been going up and down for the last 3 million years between the glacial period and the interglacial periods. And in the current interglacial period, the Holocene era, human beings came along, and over the last 150 years, we messed it all up. We caused a huge increase in CO2, which you can see in the record. CO2 now is at 400 parts per million, and as a result, now temperature is trying to catch up. But every time the CO2 levels go up and down and the temperatures go up and down, there is a lot of suffering that happens as animals have to move, they have to shrink in population, and then in 1,000 years where they can expand in population. So there is this shrinking and expanding that happens. I'll give you now a graph of our human CO2 emissions from 1850 to present and the constituents of the CO2 emissions. So you can see it's caused by coal, oil, gas, cement, and land use. Land use is at the bottom. This is the deforestation and desertification that we do. And you will notice that at present, fossil fuels undoubtedly are the major contributors. 85% of it is coming from fossil fuel emissions. About 15% is coming from land use changes. But if you look to the left, you will notice that in 1850, land use change was the #1 component of human-caused emissions. Now, it is not the CO2 that you're emitting today that matters, it's the CO2 that you've been emitting all along. You have to integrate it over time to see what is the major contributor of CO2 emissions from human caused contributions. So if you integrate it over time, from 1850 to present, you will see that land use change is the second highest, right behind coal, in terms of its total contribution. That is starting from 1850. But how long have we been deforesting? We have been deforesting for 10,000 years, not just since 1850. So Professor Radiman, University of Virginia, estimated that if you take into account all the land use change that human beings have done, then land use change is the #1 contributor to human-caused CO2 emissions. Compared to, in fact, it is greater than all other fossil fuel contributors combined. Now this changes the story. He then looked at the ice core record and mapped out the CO2 in the atmosphere and the methane in the atmosphere for the last 10,000 years and compared it to previous interglacial period, that is the closest to our current interglacial period. So the previous interglacial period, it was going down like this, the CH4, and the CO2 was also going down like this. And in the current interglacial period, it matched the previous interglacial period until about 6,000 years ago, and then it deviated. So 6,000 years ago, it started going up, the CO2. And that's because of human deforestation. So in that sense, the world as we know it really did begin 6,000 years ago. because we took over the atmospheric concentrations of gases as a species. So when you hear that Holocene era has had a remarkably constant temperature over the last 10,000 years, it wasn't by accident, it was because human beings did it. It was our ancestors who did it by deforestation, unconsciously. Because just like the elephant unconsciously contributes to the forest. So if you look at the temperature for the last 20,000 years, we came out of the glacial period and reached this interglacial period. And we were going to go back below glaciation threshold 5,000 years ago, except because of all the deforestation and the animal agriculture that we had started, we kept the temperature constant instead. The actual trend is here. This is what we should have been expecting. So until the industrial era, we caused this increase in temperature of A. And after the industrial era, we caused this increase in temperature of B. And according to Bradyman's calculations, A is greater than B. Of course, since 1850, we have caused a huge rise in temperature of about 1 degree Celsius. And if you just project that we will keep doing what we are doing forever and ever, and we burn all the fossil fuels we have on Earth, we're going to crank up the temperature up to that point, and then they're all going to die off, and then the Earth will get back to the glacial period. So this is a projection assuming whatever we are doing now, we'll keep continuing to do forever. But human activities today, human economy is 60% larger than what the planet can support already. We are bigger than the skin that we are in. So why would we continue to grow? So we have to change the story at this point. Transform from the caterpillar to the butterfly. But there is an explanation for what has happened so far. We kept the temperature constant for thousands of years through deforestation and through animal agriculture. And in the last 150 years, we have now created all the technology we need to maintain the temperature without deforestation. And now we have the ability to bring back the forests that we have destroyed. Because if you look at the global land carbon stock, the land carbon stock is high where the forests are, and it's low where the deserts are. And on land, there is 3 times as much carbon as in the atmosphere. So there is tremendous potential to sequester the carbon on land from the atmosphere. So you can see how the dense land carbon stock corresponds to the forests. This is the Amazon, this is the Congo, the 2 major tropical forests to the left. But they are being eaten right now, as we speak, by our farmed animals. You can see the cows surrounding the Amazon, and they're eating into it. You can see them surrounding the Congo. So as we expand our consumption of animal foods, more and more of these forests are being destroyed. And take a look at India. That's lacto-vegetarianism. Because India has about 600 million lacto-vegetarians. So now I want to give you an analogy of what is going on. Imagine that you're a weightlifter. You're lifting 5 times your weight above your head. You discover that you're on quicksand and you're sinking. knowing that your weight alone is too much for the quicksand to bear, what is the first thing you should do? Drop the weight. So we know that 10,000 years ago to 100,000 years ago, the weight of all the wild animals, greater than 25 kgs in average weight, put together was 200 million metric tons. It's been fairly constant for the last 100,000 years. And human beings were a tiny little blip 10,000 years ago. But by 1970, the weight of human beings alone was equal to the weight of all the wild animals put together from 10,000 years ago. And on top of that, we were carrying twice as much in terms of weight of farmed animals. And the wild animals had decreased in weight by 60%. This is the total biomass I'm talking about. Then between 1970 and 2010, our population doubled. Our per capita consumption also doubled. So our overall impact on the planet quadrupled. And in those 40 years, 52% of all wild animals died in terms of weight. Now if you take an exponential curve that is increasing by a factor of 4 in 40 years, doing the same thing, how many years do we have left? In 2014, this is from the World Wildlife Fund's Living Planet report. I was so shocked that I pledged to my granddaughter publicly that in 2026, when she is 16 years old, there will be more wild animals than when she was born in 2010. And I want to keep that pledge with all your help. We can do this. But that's not what the UN is planning to do. You see, I said that the weightlifter is lifting 5 times his weight. Our farmed animals weigh about 2.5 times our weight right now. But they are all young animals and they eat twice as much as their weight alone would indicate, because we kill them as soon as they reach puberty or less. So they are eating 5 times as much food as we do.
So I suggest, because we are running out of time, it's almost 2 o'clock, that you go and watch this. There's another 5 minutes which will explain this, and it shows how if we continue consuming animal products, not just milk, not just chicken and beef and mutton and fish, but also milk and milk products, how we will need 2.5 planets to feed us, which is not possible. Yeah. So there's a lot of information. I hope I have helped you, understand this issue at a much deeper level. And it's not about, oh, I love chicken, so I'm going to eat chicken. I love paneer, so I'm going to eat paneer. It's my personal choice. It's no longer that. It has a much, much deeper impact on all of us as well as the planet. So go do your research. I've got some leaflets here. We'll give these to you about dairy. Share them with people. Give this information. And I hope that you will, the next time you want to eat any animal product, you will say, okay, should I be listening to my heart? Should I be listening to my conscience? Or should I be following what everybody's been doing blindly? Yeah? There's a lot that we need to do to save our planet, to save our lives, and not to create suffering for other animals. So thank you so much. And I hope that we'll meet again. I'll tell you what we need to eat, whole food plant-based. Maybe I'll have another session for that.
Yes,
so that will help them to understand what we really need to eat to be healthy. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for being so patient. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of all of us that you have educated us about, what is veganism, and a lot of insights we have got because of it.
Thank you so much.
Any comment from anyone?
Any questions or
I know you are late, but
Yeah.
I think 2-3 minutes if anyone wants to comment on anything or say anything.
any questions also, I'm free to answer, because there are so many questions. You're going to say, oh, what about food? Then where do I get my protein and calcium and iron and all that? And you know, so many things. So that I can cover in my next session if you.
Yes, we can do that. Then that is the question that arises. Then what?
Yes, exactly.
That is the question you are leaving us with today. So we need to get answers for that.
Sure. We can have a session. I have a YouTube channel called Plant Powered Darshana. Okay, and in that there is a playlist called What Vegans Eat, and in there are 2 seminars conducted by Dr. Rashmi Menon and Dr. Nishita Dodhia, where we hold vegan MasterChef challenges, and she explains about whole food plant-based nutrition. So maybe you could go through that, or you can check out the Sharan India site, and you will see hundreds of recipes over there which you can eat and be very happy that you're not destroying the planet or making, suffering for any and other animals.
Any comment from anyone? How was it? A little bit time.
Yeah, please do. Please
Like
talk.
normally we used to see milk is very healthy for. It's a basic concept. Whenever you ask someone, say I'm a vegetarian, they used to say then go for milk. If you're a vegetarian, then go for milk. The first time I'm hearing the things that milk is also not good for our health.
Right.
The different perspective for milk.
Totally. Yes. Yeah, even I used to eat chicken because I thought I needed my protein. Where will I get protein? I never wondered, oh, where do the vegetarians get their protein from?
Yeah, that's when go for milk.
Yeah. But now I say go for plants. Go plant-based, yeah? That is it. There are 4 major categories that you should eat. Fruits, vegetables, grains and legumes, and nuts and seeds. You have that
There are a
and
lot
you
of
get all
questions
that.
when you say eat all these things. We have a lot of questions.
No,
So
actually-
we'll call you once
Yeah, sure.
to explain.
Yeah.
I mean, because again there are
Solution
questions.
for this.
Basically, if you look at our
Fruits have a
Indian...
lot of raw vegetables and fruit.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we
get
talk
lot of
about
issues,
this.
So we have to clarify those things.
Definitely. But if you look at our traditional Indian diet of roti, sabji, dal, chawal, kuchumbar, papad, pickle, without any ghee or without any dahi, it's a complete meal. Actually. So we really don't have to go far. We eat vegan food a lot without even realizing it. Okay?
Again, a nice big clap.
Thank you so much. Thank you.